were some of the rankings risers for you this week?
All right. I've moved down Paul Goldschmidt again. I think that's the third time I've made reference to that in this segment this year. The latest move puts him behind Alec Boehm and Isaac Paredes at first base. I think 15th is where he is now. And I know he's been kind of hot lately. 2 home runs in his past 5 games. But he also has 12 strikeouts during that time. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure he's really coming around. I remain concerned about him. More upside, I would say, than Paredes and Boehm. But as we talked about yesterday, getting close to dropping Goldschmidt in shallower leagues. I've moved Yohan Duran down a bit behind Ryan Helsley and Robert Suarez and Mason Miller, actually, because it looks like Rocco Baldelli is doing this leverage thing and having Duran work the 8th inning a bunch. And it's going to lead to fewer saves if it continues, given Baldelli's history. It may well continue. A little concerned about that. I, like you, I'm just giving you a bunch of ups and downs. I'm not giving you all. Normally we divide this segment by risers and then fallers, and I'm just kind of all over the place. So sorry.
I was gonna say I threw it to you for risers, and first 2 were fallers.
Oh, yeah, we can't spend the time breaking it up. Sorry.
No.
Ahead of Ronald Acuna in points leagues. Is that a problem?
I think you're back.
I moved Mookie Betts ahead of Ronald Acuna in points leagues, as you did, Frank.
Yes.
With Acuna's strikeout rate way up this year. I may regret it, but Betts is so good for that format, especially since he hardly ever strikes out. Let's see what else we got here. I moved Dylan Cease into my top 10 at starting pitcher.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah. An ace among aces, Dylan Cease. So that puts him ahead of like...
I don't know why I reacted so crazy. I moved him up to 12th. So
that puts him ahead of like Kevin Gausman and who else is that? It moves him ahead of George. Doesn't move him ahead of George Kirby.
You have him just ahead of Gallen, Reagans, Gausman.
There you go. Yep. Dylan Cease. I moved Chris Sale into the top 15 at starting pitcher ahead of Freddie Peralta because it's not like Freddie Peralta is Mr. Durable himself. I moved Shota Imanaga into the top 20 just behind Max Fried. Bryce Miller is up to 26. Ranger Suarez is up to 37 ahead of Tanner Houck and Cutter Crawford. Suarez actually has a better K per 9 rate than both of those guys.
Wow.
I've moved down Reed Detmers out of the top 50. No surprise there. Christian Javier, I've moved down behind names like Zach Littell, Reese Olson, John Gray, Reynaldo Lopez, Seth Lugo, Eric Fetty. Losing confidence in Javier, clearly. Not that, some of those other guys obviously need to move up, but Javier moving down. And let's see, anyone else interesting here? I moved Jason Dominguez up about 25 spots. He's now in the top 70 in the outfield with him going on a rehab assignment. Probably got a month of rehab ahead of him, but he could be highly productive once he's ready to go. And I guess one more here, Jake Berger and Michael Busch, both of them, Berger and Busch, 2 guys I've been high on at times this year. Both of them falling in my rankings behind Ryan Mountcastle, Nate Lowe, and Anthony Rizzo at first base.
Yes. I had a lot of the same moves. I moved Jake Berger down to 22nd at, 21st at third base and 23rd at first base. So outside of the top 20 at each position, Michael Busch is down for me. Gleyber Torres, I moved outside of my top 10 at second base. He is my 11th ranked second baseman now at this point. A couple pitchers, Walker Buehler, I moved him down to SP 58. It's kind of twofold. It's the fact that he hasn't looked good so far, and other pitchers have looked really good. So, it's just a confluence of events there with Walker Buehler. Reed Detmers outside of my top 60 starting pitchers. He's down to SP 63. And I did move Craig Kimbrell down to my 20th ranked reliever just because his role is kind of in flux. I think if I thought he was completely out as closer, I would just, he probably wouldn't even be in my top 40. But the fact that I still have him 20th means I think he will regain this, but because his, things are in flux right now, it's why I moved Craig Kimbrell down to RP20. Did want to mention some of the risers. Bryson Stott, obviously, I mean, the guy is on fire right now. He is inside of my top 8 at second base in both formats, in head-to-head points and in roto. So
second base has been pretty weak, so maybe I shouldn't say wow, but
yeah, I have him one spot. I moved Jordan Westberg up as well, but Stott is one spot ahead of him. So I think
you have Stott ahead of Westberg. Interesting, because I moved Westberg into my top 8, I think last week.
I believe Stott ranks higher in both points and in roto as of now. So because of this recent stretch, Stott has just been awesome recently. Brent Rooker, probably the biggest riser of all. He's inside of my top 40 ranked outfielders now. He's up to 36th in the outfield rankings, and it might just be a hot stretch, but he is crushing the ball, and his zone contact is way up this year. The expected stats are amazing for Brent Rooker, so as bad as that position has been, he definitely is worthy of being ranked as a top 40 outfielder right now. That is Brent Rooker. Jerkson Profar continues to hit. I moved him way up. He's outfielder 43. Yusei Kikuchi, who didn't have his most efficient start here on Wednesday. He was at the Orioles 4 1/3 innings, 1 run, had 9 strikeouts. It's a 2.60 ERA, a 1.10 WHIP. I have moved Kikuchi up to my 40th ranked starting pitcher on the season. Seth Lugo, inside of the top 60 starters. He's at SP 59. I have a new number 1 closer. That is Emmanuel Clase. He's the top ranked closer for me now at this point.
I've been tempted to do that too, because my actual top 2, Edwin Diaz, Josh Hader, have done very little so far. But I do think their talent level is what we know it to be, and I've been doing this long enough to know that closers, especially, they can go on these runs where they get a bunch of saves in a short period of time, and the rankings change very quickly. And so I'm keeping the faith on them. They have very secure roles. They still get a ton of strikeouts, and I think in the long run they're going to be more valuable than Emmanuel Clase. But it's the longer this goes on, the harder it is to say that.
Yeah, with me, Clase is just, we've seen him be the best closer in fantasy before, and it seems like he's recaptured that form so far this season. And Edwin Diaz, I mean, I'm not worried because he's still my second ranked closer, but he hasn't looked exactly the same coming back from that knee injury from last year. So just the slightest bit of doubt moves him down to number 2 behind Emmanuel Clase. And I wanted to point out Clay Holmes, I've moved way up. He is now my 7th ranked closer. Mason Miller at 6, Clay Holmes at 7. So didn't think that's how it would be here in the middle of May, but I believe Clay Holmes has not allowed a single earned run so far this season. And the Yankees are top 5 in save opportunities. So there you go. That gets Clay Holmes inside the top 7 closers.
One thing for Yusei Kikuchi there real quick, who is, performing well, and I think is going to be a must roster player moving forward, but his home run per 9 rate this year is 0.7. His career home run per 9 rate is 1.6, and it was high last year too. It was basically double last year what it is now. So I don't think anything has changed for Kikuchi that would lead to him allowing fewer home runs, except that it's a different home run environment, or at least it has been so far. So something to watch out for him. He may have some regression coming with the home runs, or he may not.
The only thing I would add to that is Kikuchi has a 44% ground ball rate this year, so that is up compared to last season. And his barrel rate was 6.7% entering Wednesday's start, and it was 9% last year. So he's doing a better job limiting barrels, and he's getting a few more ground balls. So